Good evening and welcome to the May 3rd, 2021 Hudson Valley Gospel Festival monthly presentation. I'm here to welcome you on behalf of Arts Mid-Hudson, the Folk Arts Program at Arts Mid-Hudson, and the Hudson Valley Gospel Festival Committee. It has been a thrill for us at Arts Mid-Hudson to work on the Gospel Festival, both the one last year and the one upcoming. Very exciting for the Folk Arts Program to have these monthly presentations. We think they add a lot to our programming and a lot to the history, to getting the history of gospel and interesting topics in gospel out to the community in the Hudson Valley and beyond, because my parents in California listen to them too. So they go out, and my colleagues around the country are also very interested. As for those of you who don't know, Arts Mid-Hudson is the premier arts organization in the Mid-Hudson Valley for Ulster, Orange, and Dutchess counties. We support artists and art lovers and have a gallery where we have gallery showings. Right now, those gallery showings are all online. If you go to our website, you can find them. We provide grant money to artists and communities and organizations doing presentations on art and related to art, and just anything we can do to support artists and in the community. In particular, the Folk Arts Program at Arts Mid-Hudson, we work with cultural organizations and cultural communities to assist them in presenting their traditions and culture. And I say assist because we never impose our views. It's always, how do they want to present themselves? So, for example, how does the community of gospel singers and musicians in the Hudson Valley want to present themselves, and what they want people to know about them, what we want to know about, they want to know us to know about their history. So I'm thrilled tonight to introduce Rennie Raffington, or as Rainford Raffington Jr., if we're going to go all official, who is going to present two interviews, one with his professor, Pastor Christopher Gray at Livingstone College, and one with a local gospel musician, William Summers, or Billy Summers, as I was told. And I'm going to let Rennie introduce his professor, his pastor, and Mr. Summers, but I'm going to introduce Rennie. So Rennie is a rising senior at Livingstone College in political science. He hopes to go to law school and to also be a minister. And I was told was also an Eagle Scout, and his Eagle Scout project is on the history of Smith Metropolitan AME Baptist Church here in Poughkeepsie. And soon am I right, Rennie? And
AME Zion.
AME Zion. I'm sorry if anyone's going to get that wrong. It's going to be me. And soon we'll be able to see the result of that history in a video. And I would also like to say that Rennie has been a wonderful addition to the Hudson Valley Gospel Festival Committee. He is our young voice who brings us sort of back to making sure that we remember to include the youth in our programming. So Rennie, do you want to give an introduction to the interview with Pastor Gray, or are we ready to go?
We should be ready to go with the video. I want to say thank you for everyone for coming out here tonight. I really do appreciate you all. And while Miss Levy brings up the video, please sit back and enjoy this wonderful interview.
Come on. I can do the impossible. I can see the invisible because I got faith. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in to our monthly build up to the Gospel Festival. Tonight, I will be interviewing my professor, Pastor Christopher Gray of Livingstone College. Tonight, we'll be talking about youth in the gospel music industry. Hope you enjoy. Currently, what age group do you work with, per se?
Well, if you're talking abroad, I work with several age groups. And of course, between church, the college, the age groups vary. So anywhere from teenagers up to, of course, at the college, teenager, it can be up to 30. Sometimes we have, even more seasoned age groups of people at the school as well. But then, of course, at church, that age can just kind of really keep climbing, 50, 60, 70. Kind of real broad age group.
Okay. Yeah, it's a real broad age group. Okay, so based on the groups you work with, like, basically, what age group has the greatest interest in gospel music, would you say, in your opinion?
I would say a large age group, from young to old. Your older generation, of course, they like a lot of your more traditional music. But in the age and the contemporary world that we are in now, the younger group of people are really more vibrant and excited about gospel music, especially with, using different instruments, synthesizers, and on and so forth, creating that blend of music that crosses into several different genres as it relates to style, but still gospel music. So I find the youth anywhere, age group from, it could be 15, 16, up to 35, if you will. That's a really driving age group because they're really excited about the music. They want to sing. They're on social media singing. So, yeah, that age group.
Okay. All right. So, when you were starting out, way back when, were you given an opportunity to serve as a youth in your church? If so, how?
Yes, I was. And of course, my father is a bishop, and he traveled, state to state, just kind of traveling the world, running revivals. And so I was like the young guy. Of course, back in the day, the Michael Jackson was real big at that time. So with the whole afro, so I had the whole big afro and all of that kind of thing. And so in traveling, I was kind of like the psalmist, if you will, singing, and when he would travel, he would always have me to sing before he preached and those kind of things. So I was very active in the music department at church. And of course, started out on the drums and then moved from there to the piano and then the bass and the lead guitar. And so I was very active at a young age in the church from the music perspective.
All right. So many churches have praise and worship services now, youth groups, worship services, gospel workshops. How have the youth been involved in these activities?
They've been very involved. I think youth has been very involved because their brilliant minds wants to learn even more. And so they have this drive of getting more knowledge about music education, about styles and genres of music, as I mentioned earlier before. And then, the personalities of songs and how to sing them, how to create the charisma to, keep the attention of the audience that they sing to. So a lot of your youth has been very, very, that I've experienced, been very, very involved in that learning experience as it relates to workshops, seminars, and music departments.
Okay, so in other words, and is all music played today believed to be youth gospel music, like meaning like hymns versus contemporary music is a question. That's
I would say there is some blending. Normally, sometime you may hear people say, well, go back and get the old hymns. And sometimes you may find that to be, not all the time, but sometimes you may find that to be maybe an older generation because they were brought up on what was called the hymns. Now, the reality of it is the word hymn really means, even when you look it up in the dictionary, the word hymn means praise. Okay. And so whenever you think of hymns versus some of your gospel music, it's really somewhat the same as it relates to when you're calling it praise. If you talk about really what the word hymn means, oftentimes when we think about the hymn book, we just automatically think traditional. So whether that's I Surrender All and some of the other songs that are in the hymn book, but the word hymn means praise. But then oftentimes, because of the mind thinking, well, that's kind of the traditional thought pattern, you may find the older generation say, hey, well, I'd like to hear some of those hymns from back in the day. While the new generation say, hey, I've got a new song to sing. The Bible tells us about, hey, sing unto the Lord a new song. And so a lot of your youth, they're excited about the new ideas. I've got a new testimony. I've got a new thing that I want to sing about. And then I have a new testimony and the experience that I've experienced that I want to share with others. And so I find that your youth these days, they like a lot of the new things. They want to talk about what they're going through today. They cool with, hey, what mom and them went through and, the songs from back in the day. But a lot of the youth say, hey, I've got a testimony today and I want to express my appreciation to God for waking me up. I know he woke my mother up, but he woke me up, and let me express that, how I express that in a youthful and vibrant way. So I think that the music today, if you can, trying to kind of really, I guess, compare between, your youth liking more contemporary versus the hymns. I think they like the contemporary, but what I do realize, and the reason why I say it's a little bit of a mix, because the youth oftentimes will take, just because they remember some of those hymns that mom and them sung, if you will, from back in the day, they would take some of those hymns and maybe flip the arrangement. I have an arrangement of a song from a hymn, and I flipped the arrangement, made it more today of what people like to hear musically and the styles that people like to hear. But I took some of those lyrics from the old hymn and used those. So I think it's a mixture. I think it's a mixture. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. So in what instruments, do you equate gospel music versus adults?
If we're talking church, a lot of people, if you're talking about what instruments equate to gospel music or more related to what people think, you will hear the organ a lot of times. A church organ is an instrument. And when I say church organ, an organ is not necessarily just always played in church, but that's a sound that people, listen for. If you go to church, whether it's a charismatic church that has the Hammond B3 or the C3 organ with the Leslie, or if it's more traditional church that has more of the pipe organ sound. The organ has kind of been that church instrument that people go to. Across the board of both church and other genres, whether it's R&B, contemporary, that kind of thing, then of course more keyboards and more synthesizers and those kind of things create those other sounds. But church has kind of been, the instrument for the church has kind of been related, I would say, toward the organ.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a time or day or week that you would say that a youth would listen to gospel music, like outside of regular church services or something like that?
I would say it's kind of broad and all over the place for a lot of people, just because with social media these days, you always have your phone in your hand, so you can quickly go to YouTube or pull up iTunes and those kind of things as a source of listening to music. But other than, I would say daytime, I would say evenings, and then especially weekends, because everybody is kind of, have some free time outside of working during the week or going to school during the week, during the daytime. And they have that time, whether it's in the evening or at night. And again, specifically, a lot of times on weekends, because they're trying to find that time. Hey, I love music, want to give God praise, and then, being able to meditate and that kind of thing as it relates to gospel music or just any style of music that they find interest in. I would say evenings, if you're talking weekdays, and then, of course, definitely weekends.
Great. Okay, so in your opinion, what is the greatest divide between youth and musical expression in gospel music?
Say that one more time, please.
So what I'm saying is, what is the greatest divide? Like, what divides youth in the, let's say, maybe in the church realm or something like that, or just in general? What is the greatest divide between youth and expressing themselves musically in the gospel music?
A lot of times, I think with youth, it depends sometime on where you are located, and what I mean by that. There are some churches that are more traditionally driven with certain rules and regulations that they go by, and I find that sometime if it's real traditional, and not having enough flexibility to give a youth the moment and the time to express themselves musically, I find that can kind of be somewhat of a divide. So I've seen in churches where you have a church that's really, really traditional, but then they have the youth that's coming up and they're like, hey, we want to do this a little different. We're feeling this a little different. Why can't we do it like this? Maybe have this little beat or add this other instrument. And it may be somebody at the church that may be more traditional, like, nah, we don't want to do that. We don't want. And oftentimes you may find those youth, they may dwindle and go somewhere else where they can express themselves musically. The Bible tells us to let everything that have breath praise the Lord. And so I want all youth that can and will to express themselves musically, to give God praise, glory, and honor. And I never think that we should be a hindrance, if you will, to youth expressing themselves musically, because they're not only the future of our world, they are today, and so we've got to let people and youth be able to express themselves musically. So I think that would be an area there, where you find the tradition and the contemporary kind of bumping heads because somebody else has another idea. Doesn't mean the other idea is wrong. It's just kind of like, hey, why can we not both express our love for Jesus Christ musically in different capacities and different styles?
Okay. All right. So some important points to remember. For those who might be listening and need encouragement, either as a youth member or with a responsibility to serve youth.
Okay. Well, I say that always keep your head up. Know that you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. God created us to win. He never created us to lose, and never be defeated by the enemy that try to tell you what you can or cannot do, because they did not manufacture us. They did not manufacture you. We were created by God for God. And so it is important that you understand that, stay connected to God, so that in every move you are doing the will of God. A good man's steps are ordered by the Lord, and the Bible tells us that. And so it is important that we stay connected to God, And keep asking God every day, hey, God, what is your will for me today? So that I can make all the right moves today, all the right decisions today. And musically, you know, what do you want me to say to your people when I'm singing and ministering? And always keep things God focused. And if you do that, things will go very great for you. You know, if you start focusing on people and, you know, wondering if people like your music or people like your style or, you know, am I good enough? Then you create this whole doubt within yourself. And that is what the enemy wants to do, is for us to doubt ourselves. But again, I said earlier, God created us as winners, you know, we're more than conquerors. And so we've got to make sure that we really stick to what God has for us, stay connected to God, pray to God, read his word, and let everything be God driven through the music journey that we take.
Okay. And one last question.
Yes.
In your opinion, please finish this sentence. Youth and gospel music.
Youth and gospel music goes well together, because I think right now in today's society, what the youth has to say to the people in the earth, their peers, I think is necessary. And so for the youth to say, hey, I embrace what God has given me. I embrace this gospel music. I embrace this inspiration that God has given me to share with others. I think it's a wonderful thing. So I think it's like a marriage, youth and gospel music, inspiration. It's a marriage to me. I think it goes together.
Right. Thank you so very much, Pastor Gray, for interviewing with me.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
No problem.
God bless.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little interview with my professor. I wish he can join with us, but he is teaching a class as we speak right now. But I do appreciate his taking his time out. So now our next interview is Mr. Billy Summers. And I would like to say this man has been a true man of God, and he has been a good mentor to me since the age of 12. And I really appreciate him for coming out this evening and doing this interview. He's none other. He is a native to Poughkeepsie, New York, and he loves his Hammond B3, playing the Hammond B3 organ. So I'm gonna wait for him to
Unmute.
not unmute himself, but get situated.
And I would just like everyone, please make sure that you are muted.
Okay.
Oh, we're getting closer.
Oh, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, while he's getting situated, he is also the founding administrator for MITGAN, which stands for Musicians in the Gospel Music Industry, in the gospel music. Am I saying it correctly? Am I saying it correctly? Oh, we can't hear you.
Just type it in the chat.
All right. Musicians in the gospel music industry. So he'll give you a little explanation of what that means when we give an interview. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Is he ready?
Billy, are you ready?
He's
Hello.
He's muted right now, so
I see.
you need to text him to unmute.
I'm gonna make sure he's available. Hold up.
Once again, I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. What a wonderful interview with Pastor Gray. Certainly enlightening to me, maybe not to everyone. But it certainly reminds us that the importance of youth, not just in gospel, but the importance of youth in worship, and remembering that while the basics don't change, sometimes we have to change the presentation.
Billy, are you ready? Are you? Probably probably lost connection or something like that. We can't hear you. I'm going to try to unmute. Jesus. Tap the screen on the bottom. It should be a microphone.
We see you.
Tap.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you now. Praise the Lord.
Man, okay. That was an adventure.
So
that was an adventure.
Okay, I'm gonna mute my.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here is Billy Summers.
Hello, everybody who's out there. Thank you for inviting me, Raffington.
Well, thank you for coming out this evening. So I'm gonna get right to the questionnaires. Okay, so
and the name of the group was Musicians in the Gospel Ministry.
Thank you.
There you go.
See, I forgot all that.
Hey, all is invited.
All right, so let's start off this little questions, get a little background. So, what is your current occupation at this moment?
The current occupation in the church. I'm minister of music at the St. James Baptist Church in Nashville, Tennessee at the moment.
All right. So you grew up here like a long time ago, way before I was born.
I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York. Yes, sir. Then when I graduated from Roosevelt in 1976, I got out of Poughkeepsie. Haven't been back since. Well, just to visit. Because that's home, and it's always going to be home.
So,
wait a minute, did I hit mute again? No, okay.
No, you're not. So we can see you. We can see you.
Okay, all right.
So after Poughkeepsie, so you went. So you say you didn't come back ever since. So did you went to college or something?
I went to college in Nashville and pursued electrical engineering at Tennessee State University, and life went on from there. And that's pretty much what I've been doing since I left Nashville. But as time moved on and changes came about, as you know, I was in South Carolina for a few years, and then after that was over with, Nashville, Tennessee called me back with a nice position in the music ministry, and this is where I am now, back in Nashville.
Good. So So let's go back to Tennessee State. So was there any extracurricular activities that you did at Tennessee State?
No more than the gospel choir there. That was pretty much my extracurricular because we stayed on the road a lot, and I didn't realize how good the choir was because we got many invitations. Went from local to other cities inside of Tennessee, and then from there we went to other states. And I think the most thing I'll always remember with that was the year I was president of the choir. I took them on a tour on our spring break 7-day tour, and we went from Nashville to Poughkeepsie first, and we stayed in Poughkeepsie 2 days. From there, we went to well, we stayed in the New York area until Monday. We did Poughkeepsie, Mount Vernon, Manhattan, and Brooklyn, and then from there we went to Cleveland. From Cleveland, we went to Chicago. From Chicago, we went to St. Louis. And from after that, we went back to Nashville, and we did all that in 7 days. And I had it set up pretty good because being college student, you know, most of us were broke. So for 7 days, room and board, I only charged everybody $20. Of course, everybody like, how in the world did you do that? Well, the church has sponsored us, but I had it all set up, and it was fun and it was nice. But the other thing that I always remember, we did an album, and the school never done an album, and to this day they haven't done an album. But that year we did an album, which you know about, and today some people are still asking if we have any more CDs left. Of course, it wasn't CDs back in '85; they were on albums, but we had to put on CDs, and that's just pretty much where it is today. But it's something I'll always remember, and I'm glad that I was a part of that, Brantford.
Wow, I'm glad you were a part of it that time. So with that that CD, you transformed to to Facebook, creating the group McGam. So tell us a little bit more about McGam.
Well, McGam. McGam was started by myself. Somebody that we both know real well gave me the idea of having a music page. That would be your mom, as a matter of fact. And I wasn't a Facebook person at the time, but I actually got on Facebook since I got the time and started musicians in the gospel ministry when I created it for the purpose of helping other musicians with whatever they needed help with it in music. You know, like how do you play this, or what's the chords for that? And so I launched the page, and to my surprise, it just grew. I'm still shocked on how it has grown, because never in my entire life I thought that page would have 34,000 people, and every day it's still going to. Today we have 34,700 plus people, and it continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. So I had to start adding more administrators, because I couldn't keep up with all that was coming in from people from around the world. And it get out of hand. Like, we get a lot of people in Africa, and they think we're all that, and they asking me, can you send me to the United States, or can you send me a keyboard? Well, we're not quite there yet to be bringing people to the United States, but thanks for asking, but no. You know, but it's a growing page, and everybody's welcome. You don't have to be a musician to be in the group. Just love music, and we ask you to share your ideas and comments, questions, if you have any questions about anything. So if you are interested, come on. You're quite welcome in the group. But it just continues to grow, and I'm trying to take it to another level. And don't ask me what that other level is, because we're working on that as we speak now. So we'll see what's going to happen in the future because it's a platform for everybody to take advantage of. And believe me, a lot of people are taking advantage of it.
Okay, so you said it's a platform for everybody. So you're saying so how does that help with youth? The more youth people on that
Oh,
group?
we have plenty of youth in there, yeah. And it's the youth that make it interesting. Because you know me now I'm old school, and today you got the social media involved now, and you got 10,000 keyboards out there, and I'll say the topic that we were arguing with today. I heard your man was great speaking about hymns earlier. Well, there's some youth like, why do we have to do hymns? You know, well, huh? So he must be a young boy. They have to. Well, hymns is like the foundation of the church, and that's going to never go away. You know, I don't believe hymns will ever go away, but hymns has faded. In my mind, I believe they faded, but I don't believe they'll ever go away because some youth don't want to even do hymns, and I can't conceive why they don't want to, and I don't know where and what kind of church they was brought up in to not want to do hymns, but it perplexes my mind to even hear somebody say that, and I guess because I grew up with hymns right there at Smith Street, Amy Zion. You know, that's all I knew, and anywhere you go, there's hymns. Hymns is part of the church, so to say, why do you have to do hymns or we don't do hymns? It makes me scratch my head, and I don't get that. But I just Google them and let you know hymns is always going to be there. When all these songs that's coming out today, they're going to come and go. There will always be hymns. But the youth is a very important part of everything because the youth is going to take over the world in a little while. So what you don't, if you're not going to train them now, it can easily fade away. So I'm going to always tell them and teach them and train them the basics, the foundation of music. You know, because if they're not taught, they can't teach what they don't know, and that's life. Period. If you're not taught, you can't teach nobody nothing that you don't know. So I'm there for the youth, and if the youth have any questions in the group, I'm the first of anybody to answer them and try and steer them or lead them or help them in any ways possible. So
Okay, and one last question.
yes, sir.
So what can us young people learn from the older generation? And
What can the young people learn from the older generation?
yes, sir.
Well, basically, how to get to the older, how the youth can make it to the older generation. I always say it like this: when you come up with some crazy talk, I said, "How do you get the $10 tube?" They said, "I don't know. Where is that?" Well, you got to teach them how to get there or tell them how to get there, and then once they find out, then they know. Well, again, like I said earlier, if you're not taught, then you're not going to know. So I'm always there for the youth in any way possible because you got to be taught. So to answer your question, I mean, what can the old school teach the new school? You teach them life, teach them the fundamentals, teach them. I mean, not just in music, but in life. Period. You got to be taught the fundamentals and life. The family has changed, and I won't get into that because that's getting away from music. But I'm trying to keep this thing music. But the whole family structure has changed in my generation, and you know, because I'll just say this, you know, we grew up and most people had a mother and a father. Well, we don't. You have baby daddies, baby mamas now, so that makes a difference. And if those kids are growing up in the street, well, then you're going to lack a lot of the fundamentals. But I'm trying to keep this thing music, Rennie.
Okay, I understand.
But
So
I'm just saying, the basics have to be taught to kids, and if nobody's going to teach our youth, well, they're going to end up growing up and making kids And then
Okay.
if they don't know the fundamentals, then they can't teach their kids, and then it grows on, and then it grows out. It branches out because nobody's teaching our youth anymore.
So
I'm going to always be there for the youth no matter what. And my music page is always going to be there for the youth in any way possible. If I see them or don't think what they're saying is correct. Now, I don't mind learning from the youth either. I've got to say that. You can learn from the youth. They can teach you a lot.
okay,
You know,
so let me ask you about that. So what can the older generation learn from us, from the newer generation?
in regards to music or
And do
life?
music.
Well, uh, for one thing, all these new gadgets y'all using. I'm not one for using tracks and stems, and I prefer to go live. I don't want to use none of that. And there was a time when I had to use it. Well, I have to ask the young guy, yo man, how you do this? Oh, it's simple. You just do this and do that. Well, he's teaching me how to use all that, the new technology. But I keep it plain and simple when it comes to my music in church and my band. I don't want all that. I feel if I start using tracks and stems and all that, those additives, I'm not free to do what I want to do. But I can learn from them on how to and to use it when I get ready. Because one just taught me yesterday, as a matter of fact. Today's Monday. Yeah, that was yesterday. He was teaching me how to use it. But I'm always open to what, and then this music chords, you know, no one will never know enough chords. So the chords I hear some of the youth come out with, or anybody, whether it's young or old, I'm like, wow, how do you show me that again? Show me. Oh, I always keep an open mind and an open ear, and I'm always willing to listen and learn from the youth because they can teach you a lot.
It's true. And I know I said that was the last question, but I'm going to have answer you this.
Okay.
Finish the sentence. Youth and gospel music.
Youth in gospel music.
Yep, youth and gospel music.
Youth and gospel music. Youth and gospel music. Well, youth and gospel music. Good question. Youth and gospel music. Well, youth today is the music that comes out today. You know, is what the youth is bringing to the table. You know, let me just say this, not to veer from your question. Traditional music is, I won't say gone, but the stuff you hear today is definitely not music that I used to hear. You couldn't go to a program and jump on the organ and start playing with choirs like you did back in the day. Because today, instead of the 1-4-5, you know what I mean by that, right? The 1-4-5. Well, it's not 1-4-5 anymore. It's 1-5-3-8-6. You know, the chords go all over the place. So it's nothing you can just sit down and start playing. You have to study the new music. So the youth is bringing all that new stuff in with music today. That's my opinion, you know, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I mean, it is what it is. So youth with music today is just the new style of music that we get today. And will it be long lasting? In my opinion, most of it, no. That's just my opinion. That's only because I'm old school. But a lot of this new music, I can't see it going in no Hall of Fame, so to speak, or being a classical sound. Some of it is, but a lot of it is just come and go music. And then some of it is theologically correct either. And I have to be careful about that when I listen to music, because I wasn't paying any attention to my pastor said, oh no, we can't do that here. Chasing after you, I better not mention any song. I don't know who's on here, but some music isn't theologically correct, and you have to be mindful of what you're listening to today. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's what all I can think about with that, because music is critical today. There's more ways than one. That's my opinion,
Well,
sir.
well, that is all the questions I have. I don't know if anyone else has any questions to ask you, but I certainly appreciate you for coming on and doing this interview.
Thanks for having me, Rayford. And remember, anytime you need me, just let me know.
Yes, sir.
Proud of what you're doing too.
Is there any questions that anyone would like to ask Mr. Summers?
And you can go ahead and mute yourself, or you can put it in the chat.
Okay, I'll do that now. Thanks for having me again.
No problem. Thank you.
We'll also field questions for Rennie as well. Or any comments.
I have one question. Can you sing?
Me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I thought you was talking to her. Hey, I'm gonna keep it real. I do not have a singing voice like everybody else in my family. Some songs do not require a good singing voice. So I have led songs and a few songs that I have written where they don't require a singing voice. To answer your question, no, I cannot sing, and I wouldn't sing. And the first time I led a song, I looked in the audience. It was offering time, and I looked to see if anybody was looking at me. As soon as I saw somebody looking at me, I turned my head. No, it wasn't me. But no, I'll lead it. I have led songs that doesn't require a singing voice. And I think you know, I won't give you any examples. It's just some songs you don't have to have that vibrato or all that. And I wouldn't dare touch them. Now, outside of rehearsal, that's the only time you might hear me sing. But other than that, no. No, but no. I wish I could though, but no.
Hold on 1 second.
Anyone else have a question or a comment?
Oh, I have one last question. What age were you when you became the minister of music at Beulah Baptist Church?
Oh, well, I wasn't minister of music. I actually went there at 9 years old. I was 9, and I'm in the back of the church when the pastor said, "Billy Summers, come up here." And I didn't know what I did, so I walked down the middle of the aisle with water in my eyes, thinking I'm about to get yelled at. He said, "Go over there and play that organ." So I was 9 years old. I started playing at Beulah Baptist, and I wasn't minister music. I was just a new kid starting out, basically with those hymns, and I played by ear. So, but that really developed my music career since then. So from 9 to 18, I played at Beulah, but I didn't have the minister music title then. I didn't even think about that, but we were just musicians then. So from 9 to 18, I was at Beulah Baptist until I graduated. And I didn't ask for no money, didn't charge no money all them years. They would bring me money out there, but I wouldn't take it. Only to find out from 9 to 18, they were giving the money to my parents. I never knew that until it was time to graduate. And my mother said, "You see what you made at the church?" What? I still just flip out over that. But that was nice of them to do that. But from 9 to 18, I was just a musician there. Sure.
Good. That's all right. So,
Okay.
is that all the questions?
No one has questions?
I have one question. My grandmother, I grew up just listening to my grandmother. Well, I had no choice, listening to like Mahalia Jackson and the Swan Silvertones and things like that. And one thing I noticed about it was that the music was behind the singer, but nowadays it seems to be in front of the singer. And if you don't know, it just, the music now seems to drown out the singer. And would you say that is a big difference nowadays?
You talking to me? Is that directed
Yes,
to me?
that's for you. That's for you, sir.
Yes. It is. One thing that irritates me is when I'm listening to a live choir sing, and the musicians are all they want to do is jam and have fun, and the volume is just taking over the choir. And there was a time I used to just want to hear myself, and I'm so glad. But I grew out of that early, even before I left Poughkeepsie or Beulah, because I wanted to hear the choir. I would listen to a tape, and when I hear more music, then that oh my gosh, I'm not hearing what the choir sing. Or when I'm trying to learn the song and hear the words, I can't hear the words for the music. So that's something else I always try to tell musicians: be mindful of your music. If you can't hear the choir, then you're too loud. But that's going to always be an issue with a lot of musicians. It's going to. But yeah, I have to agree with you. You're absolutely correct. That's an issue, and a lot of these artists sometimes can get away with the music and overtake the choir. I really think musicians should be mindful of that. And how do you get that in their heads to say, I don't know how to do it, especially the young ones who just want to jam or just want to have praise breaks. Well, it's more to it than just jamming and praise breaks. You got to remember, especially if you're doing a solo, you can't do too much rips and runs. You got to play behind that soloist, not in front of it. And don't play a song where it's unrecognizable. God, I heard that yesterday too. I'm like, what is he playing? And it was a simple song, but he just wanted to put his stuff in it. So musicians do need to be mindful of their music. And it has changed over the years. Really, it has. That's the best way I can answer that.
All right.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Before everybody goes, I forgot an announcement that I would love to make and share. So the Hudson Valley Gospel Choir entered the annual McDonald's Gospel Fest 2021, which will be virtual this year, and we got in. So I'm going to share with you our when it's happening. So it is happening. It's going to premiere on Sunday, May 9th at 6:30 on Fox 5. And then for some reason, continuing at 7 somewhere at fox5newyork.com. I understand it also will re-air on Father's Day and Juneteenth, but I don't know why we weren't included in this graphic of all the illustrious choirs, but I guess we'll forgive them. But here we are. We're going to be among such luminaries as Tremaine Hawkins, Hezekiah Walker, Brian Cage, and my understanding is Hezekiah Walker is local to us.
He is in New York City.
Yeah, but yeah. So we're very excited, and we are so grateful. Ray and I know I can speak for Ray, for the Hudson Valley Gospel Festival Choir. And for a choir that was only together for a few months, y'all just brought it. You brought it, and here it is. So please, I will send out, try to send another notice closer to Friday, but please join us in watching it. I also invite you to join us next month on the first Monday of June, when we will feature choir music director Terrence Motley. And then in July, we'll be featuring Mary McLemore in the run up to September 18th, which is this year's Hudson Valley Gospel Festival at Bowdoin Park, with more information to be forthcoming in the next few weeks. So thank you all very much for joining us tonight.
Again, thanks for having me. Thank you, Ranford.
Thank you for coming out, Billy. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off. So.